So like this whole thing is like, can trans people be Christians? They always have been. Like
Say it again. Say it again.
they always have been. There's nothing holding us back from having a community that just loves each other and God. There's nothing holding us back other than our own biases, our own fears.
Okay. 1, 2, ready, go.
Welcome to the Called to Be Bad podcast. My name is Mariah Martin, and I feel called to be bad. It turns out I'm not the only one. Join us as we dig into all things bad, scandalous, deviant, the stuff that makes good church folks squirm in the sanctuary. Why? Well, because sometimes the scandalous is spiritual, deviant is divine, and bad is beautiful. Say yes to the call, and let's see what holy trouble we get into today. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what it was like being non-binary, or what it is like, what it was like being non-binary in the church, and how the church has had an impact on your perhaps sexuality, but also gender identity?
Yeah. I don't go to church right now because it's very painful for me. But with sexuality in the church, it's not, I feel like it is very painful for a lot of people. And for me, it wasn't as painful, I feel like, as it is for a lot of people because asexual. Like, I don't experience attraction. I tried so hard, though. I really wanted to be straight and go through the hormone traumas of Christian teenagers, but I didn't. I was really annoyed, though, with some of the rules that people had about the way that we had to treat the opposite sex or behave like that. Like, that's gender stuff, though. And like I said before, I hated dresses, but at my church, the way I grew up, girls wore dresses on Sundays. And so I had to get into a dress. And I had special Sunday dresses. And I hated it so much. And like I would have to have my dad look over it to be sure that I wasn't going to lead anyone astray. And my mom and my sisters and like other cisgendered women in the church would compliment me on my appearance, and it made no sense to me. And like, I don't know really what it's like to feel pretty, even though people told me that I was pretty, said that I looked so beautiful in my dress. And I was just like, this means nothing except for whenever someone that I really admired complimented me. But that only meant that they were paying attention to me, and that's why I enjoyed it. But whenever I was very young, I was sexually assaulted by the lead pastor at my church. And I don't know if it had to do with my sex or if with my queerness, because I was different than the other kids. But that changed me so much. And I started to actually play more by the gender sex roles and be girly. And like that, it's like it breaks you and steals you of your identity. And like it was very pushed me into the identity that people wanted me to have. Suddenly I was more conforming and less opinionated and submissive. And like it still grated against me. Like I still hated it, but it was more like, well, since you mean nothing, you might as well. And it got easier to perform. When I turned 12, I started to really try to look girl because like puberty happened, and I did my best to embrace my femaleness and, you know, I not necessarily attract the boys, but be known as a girl to the boys, because the boys, the men in church, dominate everything. And if they respect you and think that you are in your place, then you get by. Especially if you can be noticed, but at the same time invisible. So they don't give you attention, but they believe that you are right. And that's what I wanted. And I conformed a lot, and I tried to feel okay with dresses. I tried to feel pretty, and I, tried to be right, and I learned all the girl things. And that, I couldn't do it. I couldn't relate, and it never felt right. And I was always wondering why I couldn't just accept this thing, why I couldn't understand the people around me, why everything was so hard. And I got depressed noticeably. Like, people noticed that I was different, that I was struggling, that I was sadder, more serious, less funny. I'm very funny. People love me because I'm funny. And there's I guess this is just puberty. I guess this is just them growing up. They didn't call me them, but I can't do the thing. And I just stayed depressed for years. And I didn't know how hard it was until I found more freeing spaces. And my parents went through a lot of marriage drama, and they blamed my depression on that. But at the same time, they didn't believe in mental illness, because mental illness is just a different word for demons. That's a whole other topic. And then it wasn't until I was 16 that I decided that if I'm going to come out as bisexual, I say bisexual because that's not actually what I am, then I might as well start bringing up these other parts of me. And I got this, someone told me that I am important as I am, as I truly am, not the performance that I put on, not the cover-ups, as I truly am. And so I started to really try to connect with that thing that I remembered of who I was. And I had this vision of this beautiful person that I wanted to be. And I thought this was just this whole other being that I was obsessed with, maybe some character that I will write down sometime. But at the same time, I wanted to be kind of like them, at least. And so I started to pursue this a little bit more. And I got feedback. They did not like that. They didn't want me, they always knew that I had big thoughts. And people always tried to put me in some type of role at church so that my big thoughts could line up with their agenda. And I tried doing that, but I knew that the real person that I was could not line up with the church, because it's too deconstructed. It's too stripped of the ideas and roles that the church wants us to play into. When I say the church, I'm talking about the evil churches.
The what churches?
The very controlling, conservative, painful churches.
Got it.
Stereotype. And I talk to people about this as well. How can I be myself and still be Christian? And a lot of people tried to like amend these little quirks about me and, adjust these things about me so that they fit. And so it kind of feels like this abstract painting. I am not an abstract painting. I am this realistic, whole statue of this entire person. But they had to take these parts of me, like say my hand, and twist it around into something and put it over here so it could hold still and line up with the thing they needed it to. And I tried that, and it was not working. I kept on struggling with my sexuality and my parents and my gender. And like, I thought I was a girl. I was trying to be a girl. And eventually, when I turned 18, he's like, you know what? I cannot do this. And the only way that I'm going to be able to really work this stuff out is if I have no boundaries with the church boundaries. Like, I believe in relationship boundaries. They're very important to me. And so I moved on my parents and I stopped going to church. And I listened to all these podcasts and read books about people who had deconstructed and people that were, thinking about these things. Like, how does sexuality and Christianity connect? How do they intersect and work together? How does God feel about this? What's the context of these verses in the Bible, like the ones in Leviticus that talk about abominations? How does this all line up? Because why would God create beings that were already sinful and tell them that they are bad and this is how you should live and you need to live in pain? Why does God want us to live in pain? If God loves us, why does he want us to live in pain? Why does he want us to deny the things that he created? And we can say, like, no, this is not how you were created. This is the original sin taking over. And like, these things aren't who you are. These are just sins. But I don't think that ever, like, before I was raped, I was already being this stuff. I had no idea what the words were. I was already there, though.
Yeah.
And so I was born with this. And I guess if I died at birth, then God's going to send babies to hell. But that doesn't feel loving. He didn't even give me a chance. They didn't even give me a chance. I don't know. And so I moved out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to accept all this weirdness. I'm just going to let all happen. I'm going to be the person that I feel is right. And then I'm going to see how that lines up with God. After all of this is revealed and accepted and understood the best it possibly can be, I'm going to ask God if it's bad. And it hurt because I've still been going back and realizing the things that society and the church have put on me that have hurt me so much, that have some places, with the abstract painting, it feels like they are twisted up so much that how am I ever going to put this back the way that it was meant to be? And I'm getting memories back and realizing there are things that I forgot because they're too bad. They're too much to remember. But like, non-binary in the church, trans in the church, it's hell. Ironically. It's not a place where we can exist happily. We have to create our own cultures to survive. Our own, like, yes, some of us can put up this identity and let it exist and try to align with it for years and years and years. And like, I feel like for a lot of people, it's easier because they weren't forced into this the same way I was. They didn't have all the traumatic experiences that I did. So this one, it doesn't kill them as quickly. But I know, like, I hear stories about these teenagers who looked like they were fine and happy, and they're going to youth group and they're memorizing these Bible verses, and they had Christian friends. They were working in the church cafe or whatever, and then suddenly we found them in their room, dead. And no one had any idea. In the churches that I grew up in, there are people that are surely closeted and doing the best they can. But these ways of existing are not fair, and they are not kind, and they are not attainable. They are not sustainable.
That was an appropriate sigh after all of that. Yeah, that's a lot. When we talk about sin, there's a lot of emphasis on sin being tied to like these identities, like sexuality or gender expression. But it's the sexuality and the gender expression is not what leads to the suffering or even pushes people to end their lives. It is the resistance to those identities, the rejection of them, that leads people to feel like they need to end it. So maybe that is the sin, is the resistance, the rejection, the denial. Because you should be should.
Oh yeah, the therapist word.
Yeah, I try not to use it.
Yeah.
You know what? No, you should be flourishing. You should be accepted in the church. You should be loved for who you are, not for your facades, not for this painting, this person that you tried to twist yourself into being. I'm gonna not get preachy here.
You're preaching my sermon, though. It's a good one.
I mean, yeah.
So me and my sister were talking last night, and we were talking about what it means to live. And we were saying that every person deserves the opportunity and chance to live and be alive and go all the way with what living actually means. Like, living isn't just breathing. Living is being able to express, to be a person, to thrive, to grow, to influence, to exist in all the ways that they can. And if you are keeping that down, you're not letting someone exist. And like, I am trans non-binary, and there are so many things in this country that I can't do because I am trans non-binary. And like, I can do things secretly though. But I am just trying to exist here. I'm just trying to, speak my truth, to think the things I need to think, to help the people I want to help, to eat the food I need to eat, and to breathe, and to, go kayaking and use a restroom that I feel comfortable using. I can't do that, though. I can't do all these things. I can't do them the way that a cishet white person can. I am not allowed to live to the fullest extent without suffering as well. And that is not okay, and that is not living. And then you just take it from the country experience to the church experience. Now we're even more closed up. Why are we not letting people live?
I heard someone they were talking about like the bathroom thing, and so like the fear is that someone is going to dress up like a woman and go into the bathroom and hurt people. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, okay, so then your issue is not with like trans women who are women. Your issue is with men who are dressing up as something that they are not going into the bathroom. So your issue is not with trans women. Your issue is with cis men who are dressing up, or just cis men in general. So this is not about trans people here. This is about male people who are acting predatory towards others.
And they're going to do that with or without the law.
Right. And with the bathroom thing, like, there are like you said, there are going to be unsafe spaces, but can we just make it possible for people to use a restroom and not have that to be an uncomfortable experience of trying to decide which restroom to go into? If they go into one and then they get yelled at because their gender presentation doesn't align with the little figure on the door.
So rarely do they actually align, though.
I know. I don't always wear dresses when I go to the bathroom.
I don't wear hoop skirts to the bathroom.
Yeah. And one way that churches can be very helpful to trans and non-binary people is to have even just a family restroom, a single stall restroom. You don't even have to put a gender on the door, just to have a single stall restroom. Gender doesn't have to be involved in the bathrooms. And also with like I hear people talk about like sports and like, well, we're going to have like men playing on the women's team. Well, first of all, it's not going to be men. It's going to be trans women who are women playing on a women's team. And like in the Olympics, they have to undergo hormone treatments for a certain amount of time, which will then make them physically at the same level of the other women on their team. So there's not going to be any advantage. And from a pastoral perspective, I am always going to operate in a way that protects bodies, bodily autonomy, personhood. I mean, that to me seems so biblical. And if it doesn't align with your interpretation of scripture, I'm always going to default towards what is saving lives right now. If you believe in eternity, if you believe in salvation starts right now. Eternity starts now. So I'm going to live and treat people as if that is the case now. Dang it, I'm preaching again. Cedar.
No, these are good things.
I want the church to be a safe place for all. What happened to you shouldn't have happened. I mean, period. That's the end of the sentence. Do you have, like, what could inclusion, full acceptance, celebration look like for trans non-binary folks in the church? Do you have a vision for how the church could actually be a community and home for you and other trans non-binary peeps?
Yeah. If the church is supposed to be rooted in love, why does sex, gender, race, accent, language matter? Why do these things matter? And we can like talk about like Old Testament, but like Jesus came, he died on the cross, and he changed the whole way that salvation works. And he never said that there's anything wrong with same-sex marriages. And he talked to eunuchs and he said, you know what? You're just a person. Get married if you want to get married. It doesn't matter how you became this way. Just accept this. And like you said, all the other people, accept this if you can. Do the best you can. Try to love these people just the way that they are. Still, there's nothing wrong with that. So like this whole thing is like, can trans people be Christians? They always have been. Like
Say it again.
They always have been. There's nothing holding us back from having a community that just loves each other and God. There's nothing holding us back other than our own biases, our own fears. Like there's this fantasy, yeah, where we can all just gather together and be people and love each other. And that's all there is to it. And like, you know, God created humans. Well, then why would he have a problem with humans being humans? a lot of people in my community that are Christians say that Jesus came to earth to just teach us how to be humans again.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, like, love your neighbor, love yourself, love Jesus. And this whole thing is just love over and over and over again. It's just love everywhere. And these other little things, just like him healing the bleeding woman whenever other people are like, ew, stay away from her. You need to go cleanse yourself for a month. This is disgusting. And then he goes and he talks to this prostitute, and this is horrifying and beautiful, actually. And the people with leprosy, he just went and he found these people that were being oppressed, and all he did was love them. And he just told other people to love them over and over again. He just hung out with them. He spent time. He made sure that they knew that he loved them as they were. That's just what I want for the church. I want anyone to be able to come in to this building and know right then you are allowed to exist right now where you are, as you are. I just want to help you exist. And we can discuss what it means to exist together, and talk about how can I learn to love you better. Like, me and my siblings, we have discussions because we all have like really bad traumas and triggers, and we're like, what's a trigger for you? How can I avoid this? And what's a way that I can show you that I care about you? How can I help you today? That's what I do with my friends, especially when I'm first getting to know them. What's something that's really hard for you so I can avoid it, so I can love you better? I just want to love you better. I want you to feel like a person around me. That's my vision for the church. And like, that strips it of so many things, but at the same time, it'd be so much easier to breathe.
Mm-hmm. And like when you were talking about Jesus loving others, when he loved people, he restored them to wholeness, meaning he healed them and restored them back to community. So it was like a physical, a social, that's a social level healing as well. And also he saved them. He removed this idea that sin was caught up in disease and illness. And so like when Jesus, like people always like will be like, well, Jesus said, go and sin no more. But that is a very narrow view of what sin is. I think Jesus was saying, go and be restored to community. People will no longer treat you as an outcast. Not this like this individualistic view of sin, of like go and don't make any more mistakes. That's not what sin is.
Yeah. I had this Bible class in high school, and the teacher talked about how sin is not something you do. It's a problem that's in the world. It's its own entity. Sin is not, like something you do. It's not a mistake you make. It's this thing that's holding you back. Kind of like maybe like a broken leg. Like you're doing your best. Unfortunately, you can't run the 5K, and that's a sin. No, you have a broken leg. The problem is the fact that you can't move. It's not the fact that you are existing, or like the fact that you can't run. The problem is that your leg is in pain. It's still healing. And so like if he's saying go and sin no more, it's like go, sin no more.
Yes, I like that.
Like, sin, stop holding her back.
The sin is the barrier keeping you from experiencing full humanity, full belonging.
It's not you.
Right. Yeah, I like that. How would you respond if someone said that you were a bad Christian because you identify as non-binary, or because of your sexuality or any other identity markers?
I don't like having conversations with people where I try to justify the way I'm existing, because I never made the choice to be non-binary. The only thing that I did was say, oh, this is who I am. If I don't want to die, this is who I'm going to be. And I don't need to justify that to anyone. I don't need to say, hey, I'm okay no matter what you think, or I'm going to prove to you that I am okay. Because first of all, if someone is telling me that I am not a good Christian because I'm non-binary, they already made their mind up. They're not going to change their opinion because I said something. The only reason that they would ever change their opinion is because they want to care about me, not because they heard a better argument. No one changes their opinion because they were proven wrong. I do, but like that's because I want to love better. They have to actually care about me or people like me or their friends who are trying, or people they want to meet. So if someone say I'm bad because of the way I exist, being around that person hurts me because they're trying to drag me down. They're trying to belittle me. They're trying to steal my humanity from me. I don't need to be around this person anymore. So I'm just going to walk away. It's like, I do not want to be around someone that's trying to kill me. And I'm saying kill me because with queer people, whenever you say that they're bad because of the way they exist, you are causing death because you are telling them that they're not human anymore. You're stealing their identity from them or turning it into something disgusting. Like my mom told me whenever I was like 17 and I was talking to her about my sexuality that I was disgusting. And she took this sexuality and she turned it into something that it's not. My sexuality is not disgusting, but the Christian church, basically as a whole, has taken homosexuality and turned it into something wrong and disgusting and unconsensual and demonic, when really sexuality is just a way of loving someone. And if that someone ends up being someone of the same sex, as long as they are consenting and saying, this is what I want, why is that hurtful? Why is that disgusting? It's just two people loving each other. There's nothing disgusting about that. So you turn into something disgusting. They believe that they're disgusting. Mm-hmm. And if you believe that you yourself are disgusting, you are an abomination, you are causing harm to the world, unless you decide to go into complete apathy, which is a painful way of existing. You become mentally ill, and a lot of times think about maybe just killing yourself if you're causing so much harm. You are not causing harm, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice for trans non-binary folks, especially those who perhaps care about the church?
One thing I want to say is that your safety matters much more than anything else. Mm. So if you need to stay closeted to be safe, that is a valid decision. And I don't care who tells you otherwise. Your safety is what matters most. Is your job to take care of you. And sometimes the best way we can take care of ourselves is to stay hidden, because a lot of times, like, we hide for a reason. There's nothing, it's not selfish. It is kind to yourself, and we deserve to be kind to ourselves. And another thing I want to say, it's not so much advice, is something that we need to remind ourselves of, is that we are not sinful, and we are not disgusting, and we are not wrong. We are people, and we are existing. We did not choose our bodies. There's nothing wrong with us. Our brains are not damaged. Our bodies are not damaged. We are just people being people. And that's completely okay. No one should tell us how to exist. That is our decision. Advice for how to exist in the church as a non-binary person or trans-binary person. A lot of times people think that, hey, God can heal this of me. But the problem is that there's nothing to heal because there's nothing wrong with you. Okay, the best advice I can give is to find somewhere that you can be safe and valued at the same time. find a church that will love you as you are and protect yourself. And like a lot of times we think that we can stay for the people that we love. I mean, like, do what you have to do, but in order to love ourselves, we have to be good to ourselves, and we cannot let other people's decisions about who we are control the way that we live. I love my parents so much. I still love them. I still want them to be part of my life. As soon as they are ready to respect me and love me the way that I actually am, I want them in my life again. But if I'm going to value myself the way that I deserve to be valued, I have to let myself exist the way that I really am. And that means keeping them away right now. And so choosing to step away from the people that you love so that you can be loved is always the right decision.
Yeah, thank you. And you have a poem that you wrote. Would you like to share the poem?
Yeah, but it's a poem about what it was like for me to grow up in the church as a non-binary person with a vagina. It's called Skin. What am I? It feels like we're in a constant argument, but over what? I can't find where all this is wrong, and all I know is that it is wrong. You call to me. I know it's my name, but not really. My name was written on my skin and not on my soul. It's skin. That's all I have with you. Skin and curves in my vocal range. That is all I have with you. It's a fight in my body, an ache in me that I can't find the source of. I know there are memories, but I can never trace them. Who do I belong to? You think, you say. But it's strange there with you. It's like I'm supposed to make a princess, but I'm in a dungeon. The air in me is different. The thoughts in my head are different. The way I dream does not line with the name you gave me, but it's my name. Even those who haven't learned it know me as you've claimed me. Before I say a word, they've already given me a history and a personhood. I suffer the world's views of she's and hers. I can't cut myself out and claim a freedom. I've been lowered into jails and boxes, then thrown back in when I escaped. I've been beaten so I'd stay. You don't understand. It's not a rebellious streak. It's a fight for survival. I can't live and be loved for the shadow my body casts. You can throw compliments at me, but they never land. They're not for me. They're for a body, a traitor. Your love is for shapes and voice octaves, not me. I've gathered myself up a long time ago. Having finally learned that you are blind to everything that has to do with me, I am mine now. I've created a home out of rocks and melted down candles, old blankets and worn shoes. It's better than trying to catch glossed over love, too thin to feel. It's me, and it's dark, and oftentimes cold. We humans were made to belong to each other. But each other has to have a vision of one another. I went nameless. I went alone. Bringing it up now, heart smiles from you. You still tape pictures of my prison to my chest. Pretend you formed a soul out of scarred skin and rotting eyes. Somehow it brings back the days I bled trying to hold love-flavored mist. It brings me back to the fears a skirt could sear into my waist. Somehow hearing your label for me feels like nails in my ears and knives in my chest. Maybe it's because I understood why he looks at me. A betrayal in more than one form. He wouldn't know what he's fucking, but neither did I. Maybe it's the memory of loneliness and self-hatred. The hatred welled up from never understanding who or where I was. My hatred for never belonging. My hatred for never being satisfied. Maybe it's because the love you tried showing me never landed in my chest, but rather it would land on my shadow. Somehow knowing that this love didn't fit my starved soul, but wishing so hard I bled, cursing myself for how it wouldn't, crying at night still not belonging to the corpse I lived in. Couldn't I just fucking fit? Couldn't the shadow and mind line up for once so I could wear this dress without wanting to rip my skin off? Could I please tolerate the labels long enough so I could let the tight, bone-crushing love sink in? Could I look at my own chest in the mirror without thinking about the knives in the kitchen downstairs? These names meant blood and sacrifice. Crushed dreams in the horrible darkness of loneliness. Never actually seen, never actually loved, but always teased for not fitting when God knows if I could, I would. At least then I could feel love.
Well, would it be okay if I end our time today with a blessing for you and all the listeners and viewers?
Yes, I would love that.
Even though I was very much just blessed with your poem. So, Cedar and all you viewers and listeners, may you go from this podcast with Cedar's strength and resilience and desire for life in all of its fullness, in all of its expressions. May you know that you are whole and good as you are, that you are loved, and may you be surrounded by people who love you the way you want to be loved, love that you can feel. Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on, Cedar. I really appreciate it, and I think our viewers and listeners will as well.
Thank you for having me. I hope that I've helped people feel seen.
I am 100% sure you did. Did. One of those. Have. There we go. That's all for this episode of Called to Be Bad. Keep being your bad, beautiful selves, and I will see you next time.